quick introduction. As Steve said, I work for an organization called Changemaker, and we're in the space of helping people make change happen, basically. Some of that's through helping design change programs, some of it's through helping to deliver change programs. And the piece that I particularly have an interest in, born out of probably many years of frustration of seeing change being delivered, which didn't engage people. And then people, to the conversation Eddie and I were having earlier, would go, oh, this number of changes failed. 70% of all changes fail. And it was kind of a no, no, we're going to knock out any swear words. So a know something Sherlock moment, you know, so which was, yeah, well, that's because you never involved any of the human beings in the change, you know. So we spend a lot of time working with organizations, people, teams, leadership teams around actually how you engage people in change, how you shift behaviors, cultures, and some of that is how you shift behaviors and cultures in leadership, because funnily enough, most change needs to be led. So that's just a very quick introduction to who I am, what we do. The sort of conversation highlights that I thought we'd touch on today was a little bit around why change leadership matters, probably preaching to the choir on that one, but also then thinking about what makes a great change leader and getting a bit of a view from yourselves on what makes a great change leader. Maybe a bit of a thought and a conversation around why I think change leadership is different to leadership in a traditional sense, and some of the challenges that come with that around equipping our leaders to lead change as opposed to leading their organization or their team. And then I just wanted to share some research. As Steve mentioned, we work with an organization called Lumina Learning. They do a lot of work around human and business psychology and how people connect and get on together. And we work with them because I find them particularly human. They don't label people. They use language that's really easily accessible, human language. But they did some research into what styles of leadership most engaged people in change, and I just thought that'd be an interesting thing to share, and just to share a little bit of that feedback, and then finishing up with, you know, how do we help people become great change leaders? So that was kind of the highlights of the conversation. As Steve says, if you've got any questions, then feel free to chuck your hand up, and we'll have a quick chat. There is some content to get through, so at the same time I'll kind of moderate that, and if we end up going off down lots of interesting little back alleys, then I might sort of call time on some of that stuff, but more than happy to do. Yeah, it's a conversation, it's supposed to be interactive by definition, isn't it? So just around why change leadership matters, you know, we could all throw out lots of quotes and lots of statistics and all sorts of interesting stuff, couldn't we, around the pace of change, around, you know, if you're old enough, you go back to quoting Jack Welch, that probably puts me in a certain category of management. All sorts of different stuff around why change leadership's important. I actually framed it in the context of what we think as an organization, and actually we're just passionate about creating people and organizations that can actually thrive in a massively changing world, not just survive. Because so much of us, what we see is people just trying to survive change. And that's kind of not good enough. We need to be able to do more than just survive, you know, all the adversity of the slings and arrows that are thrown to us by world events, by organizational events, by individual things that are happening in our life. So for me, and for us as an organization, change leadership really matters because it's about helping us to move into a place where we thrive, not just survive. I've got three favorite quotes that I've kind of thrown into a presentation, because a presentation, you know, it has zero value if it doesn't have really interesting quotes that are in there from famous people. And so I thought I'd start that off with one from me, just to set a really low bar for this. So not a famous person, but just in terms of my view on change and change leadership, I'm actually really concerned that if we don't get better at this stuff, collectively, we will become the dinosaur generation. And what I mean by that is, in reality, if we don't help the people around us and the generations that are following us get better at doing change and leading change, then what are we going to leave behind? Because we're living in a world where everything around us is moving so quickly that if we don't get better at doing change, I shudder to think where we'll end up. So that's kind of my dinosaur generation quote, and that kind of is what drives me to do all these conversations and all of the stuff that we do, helping us get better at doing change.